For since the creation of the world, his invisible qualities, both his eternal power and divinity, are clearly seen, being understood by the things made, for them to be without excuse. Yeah, that sounds great, but what does it mean? Well, you're about to find out. So have a seat. We're about to sit down in a class to begin with, and then we shall go on a journey together, journeying through galaxies to see exactly what this verse means, and then we will see how science has caught up with the Bible. So let's go, and don't worry about what you're wearing. This is a come as you are journey. Sit on your bed, do whatever you need to do, but let's go. His invisible qualities, his eternal power and divinity are clearly seen, being understood by the things made. Space, the infinite vacuum. That's where we're about to journey today, so we can clearly understand this verse. So get your spacesuit on and let's go. Contrary to popular belief, or rather contrary to what you see in the movies, if you were to just float around in space, you wouldn't die from cold. And this is because space is a vacuum, which means that heat transfer basically doesn't happen. You wouldn't lose heat, nor would you burn up from heat from the sun, because it's just not there. So if you wouldn't lose heat and you wouldn't get heat, what's most likely to kill you in space? Well, radiation, because radiation can pass through a vacuum. Space also has no air, because air has weight, and air is held down by the gravity of planets. And planets are celestial bodies that are distinguished from fixed stars by having an apparent motion of their own. So planets have air because planets have gravity. Without gravity, air isn't held down. So let's float away to our neighbor planets, beginning with Mercury. Mercury is the planet closest to the sun, and you probably think that it would be the hottest planet because it's closest to the sun, right? But Mercury actually isn't the hottest planet. We'll get to the hottest planet next. It has barely an atmosphere. It is 36 million miles from the sun, and sunlight takes 3 minutes to hit Mercury. Its mean surface temperature is 167 degrees Celsius. Its daytime temperatures reach highs of 430 degrees Celsius. And yes, the radiation will definitely kill you. Your DNA cells would change, you would have mutations, and you would most definitely die if you were to be at the daytime side of Mercury. But despite the temperatures reaching highs of 430 degrees Celsius, because it barely has an atmosphere, the heat isn't held in the planet. So in the nighttime, the temperatures can dip up to negative 180 degrees Celsius, and you would most definitely freeze to death. So its lack of atmosphere doesn't sustain life. It's way too hot and doesn't have breathable air, neither does it have water. And yep, we've seen enough. Let's move on to Venus, the hottest planet, Earth's sister planet. Venus is the hottest planet in our solar system. It is 67 million miles away from the sun, and sunlight takes about 6 minutes to travel to Venus. It is the hottest planet because it actually has a very dense atmosphere. Its atmosphere is approximately 92 times the Earth's density. And what this means is you would most definitely be crushed to death if you went anywhere near Venus, because of the atmospheric pressure would just be bone crushing. You most definitely wouldn't survive. Also, the planet is shrouded in clouds, and its surface heats up to the melting point of lead, which is 464 degrees Celsius. So before the pressure kills you, the temperature most definitely would. And it doesn't have any breathable air. It's made up of 96.5% carbon dioxide. There is no oxygen. Oh yeah, and there's sulfuric rain that falls on it, but the rain does not reach the ground because it evaporates, obviously, before it reaches the ground. So the sulfuric rain leaves the clouds and evaporates somewhere along the way. I think we've seen enough of that. Let's go to our other neighbors. Next stop, we go to Mars. And I know what you're thinking, Mars is the red planet. Yes, it is. But Mars wasn't always that color. Mars had water on its surface until an asteroid collided on it and completely changed its topography. Hence its now dry nature that you know of. The red planet has no water and it has no magnetosphere. Its air is mostly carbon dioxide. Its atmospheric pressure, well, let me tell you, it's 0.6% of the Earth's. And you might think that's a really small deviation and you might probably live really well on Mars, but atmospheric pressure and gravity are different. It has a lower gravity than the Earth, which means, yes, you will float around a little bit, but because its atmospheric pressure is just 0.6% lower than the Earth's, something called ebullition is going to happen to you. And that's the formation of water vapor bubbles in bodily fluids due to reduced environmental pressure. You would most definitely die on Mars. It's not really the next habitable planet. And even if you manage to stay in your spacesuit, which we still have on, the sandstorms that last for months on end would definitely do the job. As we exit Mars, we exit the last of our planets that actually have ground on which we can tread. We move into the next planet on our solar system, Jupiter, a gas giant, the first of the gas giants. It's beautiful on the outside, but is mostly lightning on the inside, and you wouldn't even make it 5 seconds inside of Jupiter. So before we experience an untimely death, let's hop out of there and just move past that right onto the next gas giant, which is Saturn. Beautiful in the rings which surround it, mostly made of ice and dust, particles, some as big as mountains and some as small as gravel. These particles move round the planet at approximately 70,000 kilometers per hour, just going around it. How amazing is that? Now, contrary to Jupiter, Saturn is actually windy, very windy and really hot, despite being really far from the sun. So I'm gonna skip my trip right through there and let's see what Uranus has for us. Also surrounded by rocks. It and Neptune are ice giants, and they both have methane in their atmosphere. So yeah, you definitely die because your body cannot process methane. But now that we have our spacesuits on, you can check it out. These ice giants are mostly made up of hydrogen, helium, and just a little bit of methane, and that's actually what gives them their blue color, because methane absorbs other colors, but it reflects blue. So that's how these planets get their color. They are cold, and Neptune has extremely fast winds, fast enough for you to be blown right out of there. You wouldn't even make it into the atmosphere. And that finishes the planets of our solar system. Sorry to Pluto, it's smaller than our Earth's moon, doesn't really make it to the planets list. But it's quite interesting to think that in our entire solar system, none of the other planets are habitable except Earth. Earth is the only planet that has managed to survive for millions of years without its topography changing like Mars's topography because of asteroids. It has rain that sustains life. Its atmosphere is neither too thick to be crashing, neither is it too light for us to have blood bubbles and die. It has water, drinkable water. It has breathable air. It has life, the only planet in the solar system with life. It has just the right gravity to keep our air within the planet, but yet the gravity isn't too light to cause bone loss. There is land on the planet, there are plants on the planet, and there's rain in our planet that doesn't kill us. In 1996, Dr. William B. Toller gave simple probability and facts about the universe. But he first began by taking out 10 coins and marking them 1 to 10 and putting them back into his pocket, and revealed that the probability that he would randomly draw out these coins in the order in which they were numbered was 1 in 10 billion. Then proceeded to give facts about the order that is in the universe. Dr. Toller described the Earth as tilted at a 23-degree angle, which is precisely what is needed for life to exist. The Earth wobbles off the 23-degree tilt by 3 degrees, allowing for the slight change in the degree of contact of the sun's rays for the proper seasons to exist. Rotates on its axis at 1,000 miles per hour. Any slower, and the daytime side of the Earth would burn up, and the other side, the people would die of cold. The orbit around the sun at the rate of 64,800 miles an hour is essential to life, because even 1/3 slower would cause the Earth to be pulled so close into the sun at the shallow part of its elliptical orbit that we would be burnt to a crisp, and a doubling of that speed would throw us so far out at the long point of the orbit that we would freeze to death. The distance from the sun is approximately 93 million miles, which is the right temperature for life to exist. The mass and distance of the moon with its pulling effect on the ocean. If the moon were only 50,000 miles away instead of 240,000 miles, the gravitational pull would cause the continents to be dashed into the depths of the seas. The depths of the Earth's oceans are just right. Any deeper would dissolve all the carbon dioxide and oxygen from the air. The Earth's crust hasn't been left behind. If it was any deeper, all the free oxygen would be oxidized from the air and would be unable to live. And lastly, the plants have the right chloroplasts. If the action of the chloroplasts were stopped, we would either starve to death for lack of food, or we would die from asphyxiation, because their processes release free oxygen into the air, allowing us to breathe. Suspended in vacuum, in infinite space, among an infinity of stars and planets, is the one planet containing seas, mountains, islands, which are the cold deserts, the hot deserts, greenlands and forests, animals, people, love, ocean life, wildlife, and waterfalls. In an infinite of space, among an infinite of stars, is a God who knows each of them by name. To whom will you liken me? Or who is my equal? Asks the Holy One. Lift up your eyes on high. Who created all these? He leads forth the starry host by number. He calls each one by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. Isaiah 40, 25 and 26. Suspended in vacuum, held in place by the one who made it all. Within there, the heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech, night after night they reveal knowledge. Without speech or language, without sound to be heard, their voice has gone out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. In the heavens he has pitched a tent for the sun, like a bridegroom emerging from his chamber, like a champion rejoicing to run his course. It rises one end of the heavens and runs its circuit to the other. Nothing is deprived of its warmth. Psalm 19, verses 1 to 6. A God who causes the rain to fall among both the wicked and the righteous. Yet he has not left himself without testimony to his goodness. He gives you rain from heaven and fruitful seasons, filling your hearts with food and with gladness. Acts 14:17. Skies aside is infinite knowledge for finite minds to discover. The curious mind of human beings has always something to find. Scientists recently found oceans in space. The amount of 100 trillion oceans, approximately 12 billion light years away. A discovery that explained our biblical account. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth didn't have any shape and it was empty. There was darkness over the surface of the waves. At that time, the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Verse 6, and God said, "Let there be a huge space between the waters. Let it separate the waters from the waters." And this is exactly what happened. God made the huge space between the waters. He separated the water under the space from the waters above it. And God called the huge space sky. And that was the evening. And there was morning, and that was day 2. And the next day the Lord said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered into one place, and let dry ground appear." And that's exactly what happened. And the Lord called the dry ground land, and he called the water that was gathered together the seas. And God saw that it was good. The waters that were gathered above the sky have just been discovered to be waters in space that are above our sky. And that's not the only other discovery that science has found that was in the Bible. Water, more than all the Earth's oceans combined, was found in the Earth's crust, in the fountains of the deep, as the Bible calls it. During Noah's time, in the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the second month, all the fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of heaven were opened. And rain fell upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. The earth wasn't just flooded by rainwater for 40 days and 40 nights. The fountains of the deep were burst forth, and the water covered the earth. Science catching up to the Bible yet again. But yet, it is by faith that we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what is visible. Hebrews 11, verse 3. Now it seems that everything is just right for you and I to live, to sustain us on the earth. There is no way our words would create things out of nothing, and it's hard to believe that this order that is in the universe happened spontaneously. All these point to the existence of a creator. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:1. Isaiah 44:24. Thus says the Lord, your Redeemer, who formed you from the womb. I am the Lord, who has made all things, who alone stretched out the heavens, who by myself spread out the earth. John 1:1-3. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was God in the beginning. Through him all things were made, and without him nothing was made that has been made. Colossians 1:16. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things were created through him and for him. Psalm 33:6. By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, and all the stars by the breath of his mouth. Isaiah 45:12. It is I who made the earth and created man upon it. It was my hands that stretched out the heavens, and I ordained all their host. Thus saith the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. I am the first and I am the last, and beside me there is no God. Isaiah 44:6. The design of the universe points to a creator and a designer. Indeed, we can cry out together with those in heaven and the elders. Worthy are you, O Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power. For you created all things, and by your will they exist and were created. All creation attests to the glory of God. Even the seas and the oceans obey him. The wind goes where he sends it. For since the creation of the world, his invisible qualities, both his eternal power and divinity, are clearly seen, being understood by the things made, for them to be without excuse. Well, that was a fun trip, wasn't it? I hope you learned something and had fun. And most importantly, I hope you got something with which you can use to defend your faith to your children, that your faith has been solidified and you can actually go out there and minister to people who are not beginning from a Bible background or a biblical background, and they need some of this general evidence to get them interested in the Bible. So please take this knowledge, use it, and that's the best way you can support this work I have done. This video took forever to edit, and you can honor that by actually learning something and going out there and reaching people I can't reach and sharing this with them in your own words, even in your own language. However you do it, please get that done. You can also like this video and share it with people. You can join us on Patreon right here. And if you are a child wondering, oh, how did you injure your finger? Yeah, there was a knife and I was cutting in the wrong direction. Remember, kids, always cut away from you, never towards. Bad idea. But yeah, have a nice one. Majina yote mazuri ni yako, Ee Jehova muumbaji wangu. Nikupe jina gani, kwani kila la kheri ni more.